What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Paddock, a Formula One podcast for new fans coming in hot off Netflix Drive to Survive, and the familiar excited to discuss their favorite team's new livery. My name is Ray, and in this episode, we're going to break down what actually happened in Abu Dhabi, go over all the preseason hype to get you ready for the first race of 2022 in Bahrain, and we'll be covering each race with our F1 experts to break down all the news, controversies, which have already begun, share our predictions, learn and have fun, all in the name of motorsport. You can find us on all the major streaming apps, so please flood us with all of your questions, and we'll be sure to address them in subsequent episodes. So I'm very excited to be joined by my co-host, Gio. Gio, what's going on, man?
Super excited. Something that we talked about forever out of the sheer excitement that we have for this beautiful sport called Formula One. A lot of us Americans are getting into it for the first time in the last couple of years. Me being one of them, Ray being another one of them. Will and Peter being lifelong fanatics will keep us honest during our Formula One journey. Will be our historians. Will be the ones that will keep us in check during this deep dive into Formula One. But we all share the same enthusiasm, and I'm just so excited to talk week by week, breaking down our versions of what we saw on, in each one of these races.
Yeah.
With that said, like I said, I am going to be the annoying American that got into this recently because of Drive to Survive. But it's something I've heard of my entire life. I have had cousins and friends from different parts of the world that always told me about, Formula One, this, and that. And, I just never got into it because, where I grew up, racing wasn't a thing, right? I grew up with basketball and football. And the racing that I thought, it was always NASCAR, the American, sport, right? And to me, going around and around in circles was nothing that ever appealed to me. So I was like, you know what? This seems like a very not for me kind of thing. So later in life, I get introduced to this drama-filled sport that I didn't even know existed in this capacity, and I just fell in love. The teams, the drivers, everything about it, like the money, the politics in this one sport that you would think is just, if you look at from the outside, you think it's just another, cars going fast. Yes, it is, but there's so much more to it, and I'm just so happy that I got into this. Ray, how did you dive into this? How did you get into this beautiful sport?
Look. I'm a binge watcher of Netflix, so they got me right there, and all I ever really needed was just, the sport explained to me, because I've always been a fan of, mechanics, motorsport. I love cars. I've been working on cars forever. But when I see it on the screen, it didn't necessarily translate to me. Drive to Survive, I will say, dumbed it down for me. It was kind of like Formula One for dummies. And now I'm at a point, as we discussed pre-show, where I'm now narrating Drive to Survive. I'm telling them where they're missing points because I've gotten so into the sport. But really, it's just the ultimate in Zen mindset combined with extreme motorsport. It's like fighter jets going around a track. You can't get anything more exciting than it. And then to just combine, the ultimate engineering with that, I just... Picking our favorite teams is going to be a lot of fun this year because I've been kind of switching my allegiances already. So I'm going to be curious to hear what everyone is saying. But now, all the way from Australia, Pete, how'd you get into it?
How I got into F1? First, I attended a practice session in '95 in Adelaide. The sound of the engines, the screaming V12 of the Ferrari was just phenomenal. Didn't really begin watching it until my 20s though, and then I went to a full race weekend in Melbourne in 14, started the turbo hybrid era, and I was hooked. I got into the politics, such as the Ferrari engine scandal in 19, the technical development wars, the little battles between drivers and teams, like who's going to get sixth place in the Drivers' Championship. Oh, no, how Williams and Force India are fighting for fourth in the Constructors. Those type of little intro battles are so riveting and exciting. So safe to say, came for the racing, stayed for the drama. Will, what about you, mate?
Hey guys, really excited about being part of this channel, and yeah, coming to you all from little old Adelaide in South Australia. So yes, we don't have very unorthodox American accents. We are Australian, Pete and myself, and yeah, absolute pleasure to be here. And yeah, look, what do I love about F1? I guess you could say I've been a lifelong fan ever since. The earliest memory I have is 1990 when I was 9 years old, and our classroom had a little F1 magazine that back then you had reading periods. Well, we did at our school anyway, and so I would grab this Formula One magazine, and I'll openly admit I didn't read a single word. It was all about the pictures of these amazing Formula One cars and these drivers and. One of the things that really captivated me at a young age was that there's more than one car of the same color. You have these teams. It's like, hang on, there's these two guys and they're teammates, but they're racing each other. How can they be teammates? And one of the fortunate things was I went to a school just outside Adelaide where at the time the Adelaide Formula One Grand Prix was on. And at recess and lunchtime, at the school we could hear the screaming cars going around the track. So it was pretty much like there was no way I couldn't get into Formula One because it was literally, what is that sound? And you said it so well before, Ray, that what are these screaming jets? And it's screaming engine going around the track. So and our school sort of got quite into it as well to talk about the helmets and the fireproof suits that they wear and these little fireproof balaclavas that they wear, and I just thought, what on earth is this? And it was, as I said, baptism by fire. And in 1990, the Adelaide Grand Prix was just amazing, and it was my dad, my mum, and myself watching the race from home. It was a scorching 40-degree day, from what I remember, or 104 Fahrenheit, and it was scorching. That the cars were complaining about the heat on the track, and it was all about Nigel Mansell, this British lion. Because our family's English, my dad said, "You're a Nigel Mansell fan. That's it. That's who you are." And so Nigel Mansell was in what I call a true Ferrari Formula One car, because it was a dark scarlet red with black spoilers and fluoro yellow strips on the black spoilers, and a screaming V12 in it, and pretty much he was hunting down another driver called Nelson Piquet, and Piquet had the chameleon-looking Benetton Formula One car. There's literally no colour on that car, no colour that wasn't on that car. It was yellow, green, blue, red. It just had everything. And the whole race, myself, my mum, and my dad were all watching this race. We weren't sitting down. We were screaming at the TV as Mansell was trying to home in on Piquet. And the last few laps, I was so excited I had to walk away. I couldn't watch anymore because I was going to have like a heart attack at 9 years old. So I went outside, and I knew who won the race by listening to my parents screaming from the living room. So
does that mean he's your favorite driver of all time? I mean, we're now getting into, I guess, our favorite drivers and teams, but
it's a hard one. Yeah, it's a hard one, Ray. The biggest thing that worries me is I need people to tell me to shut up, because I'm one of those walking, talking F1 Samaritans, I guess you could say. It's just there's just so much I can talk about. So, but I think that
by you then. This is a good forum for that. This is where you get to spew it out on a weekly basis.
Absolutely. So a forum where everyone can talk about this is just incredible. So sorry to answer your quick question, Ray. I think Mansell was my epic god, because he was just the electrifying driver that was always seemed to be the underdog and always not quite making the championship because someone would beat him to it. So in answer to the question, how did I get into Formula One? It was all about probably those bits and pieces. And I have to mention, which I think we'll probably have to do a podcast on one day, was the legendary Murray Walker, the commentator. and he was so colourful. He would be yelling and shouting every race, and he was just so passionate about Formula One. You couldn't help but get into it just because of his passion. So if you do some YouTubes and look at the early 90s Formula One, Murray Walker is just incredible. So
you're wearing a Mercedes jacket now. Is that your team you're going to be supporting for the year?
It was really funny. I woke up today going, right, I'm going to wear all my Formula One attire. Here we go. Looked in the wardrobe and realised I haven't got any Formula One attire. And I suddenly looked at this jacket going, that is literally the only Formula One bit of clothing I have.
Shame.
So
I'm 4 or 5 years into this sport, and I've already bankrupted my family by buying too much Formula One gear. But I'm gonna transition this, and I'll just go since we're on it. We got to pick, early on the season. This is episode 1. We have to set our allegiances. Who is your team? I'll give you who is your team now and who is your all-time favorite, right? Because, if the all-time favorite is something that you can, it comes with history. But if you lock down your favorite team now, this is the team we're going to make fun of you or praise you for the rest of this series. So I'll take it. I'll go first on this one. I'm going McLaren because I'm a Danny Ricciardo kid. I like the guy. I like Lando. Lando is the future for me. I'm a little scared about Ricciardo's trajectory in the next couple of years, but I'm a McLaren guy. I really hope for the best there. All time, I can't give you an all time, right? I'm fresh into the sport. I can say, let's see, all time. I'll give you Ferrari because I know a few on this cast are diehard Ferrari fans, so I'll set my all time the Ferrari team. And then and you can't go, driver. Senna, right? Like even before I was in the sport, how big he was as a name, I wasn't even in the sport. I knew that he was the guy for a while, right? So I'll pick there, and I'm gonna spit it to Pete. I'm gonna go backwards here. Peter, allegiance now. What is it?
All right. Clearly, the top is telling you everything who I follow for. It is Ferrari. I'm a die-hard Ferrari fan. In saying that, I also love the plucky underdog teams like Force India used to be. The teams that didn't have a lot of budget but worked smarter. They weren't able to outspend their rivals, but they were able to outwork them and outthink them. They're clever strategies that snuck them onto the podium like Perez did consistently in Force India and his Racing Point days, which is why he got the Red Bull gig. Those teams are the lifeblood of the sport. They're the grudgistas, as Ferrari called them. But, in the end, I just love Ferrari. They are passion. They are F1. F1 can't exist without Ferrari. Ferrari can't exist without F1.
Yeah.
Ray, what about you? I was hearing some chatter earlier that you may be flipping allegiances.
Okay, look. All right, look. I got into this Team Merc, and I would say that through my research, Nico Lauda has become one of my favorite all-time drivers. But I've also just gotten into Ferrari Instagram and TikTok, and I've just seen behind the scenes the passion of the fans. So I may change allegiances as the season goes on, but I haven't said that publicly yet. So right now we're still Team Merc. Will, are you still rocking with us? You could you could stay Mercedes.
Well, funnily enough, it does appear that this jacket is a Mercedes top, but it's actually a McLaren top. It's when they had Mercedes engines and their sponsorship was Vodafone, and the grey is because they had silver chrome paint with strips of fluoro orange on there. So it looks absolutely very deceiving, but it is a McLaren top.
This is why you guys are on, because this is the knowledge and the history that we need, right? That right there, we have to write in our notes. I'm like, okay, well,
It's not the name on the jacket. It's the color of the inside. That's how you know.
Sorry,
Hey.
Will. So who's your squad? Who's your team this year and then in all time?
All right, how do I make a quick answer? Enjoying it over multiple decades. I'm Team Geo at the moment as far as current season goes. I am back to Team McLaren. There's just something about them as a team. They're arising back into the front running teams. I really love Zach Brown. I really love Andrew Seidel. And, Lando, you just want to hug him. You just want to cuddle him. He's just a teddy bear and everyone loves him. And, Dan the man. There's nothing more exciting than hoping he gets a podium. So he does a shoey, which we can talk into some episodes. But historically, all time, I think Mansell's probably my absolute god, as I mentioned before. I've always had a very, very big soft spot for a very talented driver called Jean Alesi, purely because he was an electrifying driver that every team wanted to sign up. And he had just such a unique driving style. Like, we would mostly drive with our hands 10 till 2 on the wheel. He would drive 11 till 1. So he would literally hold it like this. And podcast I read is because he said the steering was so heavy, that was the only way he could turn the wheel in his Ferrari.
What did he drive for?
He was mainly Ferrari, but he won people over by driving for Tyrrell, which was a very big team back in the day, but they were on the decline. But a race in Phoenix in 1990, he held off Ayrton Senna for first place for like 34 laps or something. And he was like the young driver, and everyone was like, who is this guy? And, so Ferrari snapped him up the following year. But unfortunately, he only won one race in his whole career. But he was just electrifying to watch. So yeah, Mansell up there, soft spot for Alesi. Who do I go for as a driver now? Probably Dan the man, I'd say. He's just so charismatic. You just smile every time you see him on TV.
On the McLaren side, and if you're watching Drive to Survive, which just dropped, I was pretty surprised to see the focus on the McLaren team in a few of these episodes, and how that Lando and Danny relationship wasn't really what I thought it was. Granted, Netflix tends to take liberties and kind of shift the narrative sometimes, and they're known for that. But like when I was watching live last season, I'm like, man, these guys are the best friends, the bestest of friends, and they could do no wrong. But I'm like, oh shit, Lando's a little bit of a dick, man. But man, he's good, man. He's good.
He's good.
We'll dive into it more, I'm sure. But I was pretty surprised. I was pretty shocked. But no, that's I got a little team McLaren on my side. I'm very excited for them. Now let's talk pretty. Let's talk shiny. Let's talk fast.
Pretty.
Let's talk the bells and whistles. Let's talk livery. By this time, every team announced or has released their new look for the 2022 season. There are some pretty ones out there. There's some ones they're forgettable. I think we should talk about our favorites. We should. Let's see if we have a top 5. If we have a top 5, I'm sure everyone has their own, and I'll spit out mine right now. Now, do we want to go worst to best, or we want to go 1, 2, 3? How do we want to do this? Okay.
5 down to
Okay. So my 5th, I'm gonna go, and I'm looking at these like, again, for any listeners or watchers, we have this really cool document that we refer to now because we're organized. We're a well-oiled machine here. Okay, so 5th. Williams is 5th for me.
Whoa.
Yeah, I have him at 5. I have him at 5 because I thought it was a clean look. An unexpected look for me. I did like what I did think they were beautiful. 4th, no, I'll keep it there. That's all I got for Williams. But for 4, Alfa Romeo.
Okay.
And Alfa Romeo had the two, right? Because at first they launched with that weird camo one, right? Okay,
Right.
and
Yep.
right, the
That was the
testing,
testing
right? So
version.
at first I thought that was going to be it. So like, they wouldn't be on this list. But then when they came with the most recent one, and this is the one we talked to in our thread about, they incorporated that design on the on the wheel itself,
On the
on the
tire,
tire, which I
yeah.
really
Wow.
love. 3 goes to Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they were my number one. When they were going to announce, when Mercedes came out, I was like, yeah, that's it right there. That's the best one. But then Ferrari came out. And Ferrari, and I'm not a big red guy. The color, red and black, I feel like, when I was younger, I used to really love it. I phased out. It's a beautiful machine. It's so nice, so just it's a beauty, man. I can see any old Ferrari fans, their hearts pumping when this thing was released or revealed. I really love the look of it. In testing, it looks even prettier. 2.
Yeah.
Because I don't want 2 up. I put Mercedes at 2. They're consistent. Every year, the last couple of years, they put beauties out there. This year was no different. But the one that stole the show for me was, Aston Martin. Yeah, Aston Martin.
Yeah.
That green and black, a couple of like hints of yellow. It's
gorgeous.
sleek. It's Bond.
Yep.
Beautiful.
It's man, it was everything. It was my top. I really liked it. I decided not to put McLaren in the list because they're my favorite, and I'll show bias there. I thought they had a beautiful thing, but very toy-like to me. It looked like a cool toy.
Okay.
And the only reason that I didn't have them in the top
Yeah.
5, but still a beautiful freaking thing. But that's my top 5.
No, it's solid list. Solid list.
What do you got for us?
You cannot go wrong with that.
I'll take. Let's go, Will. What do you got? Give us your top 5.
All right, I'm going to get this one out of the way as P5. I think Williams have done a very good job this year. When I think Williams, I naturally think blue. Unfortunately, because of the old school early 90s when they were blue and yellow. So the fact they've got blue in their car, that puts them in the top 5 for me. Very, very impressed with Alfa Romeo's car, P4 for me. That was a late entry. I really actually like their camo livery that they did, and I wish they actually did that because Red Bull did that a few years ago as well, and there was a massive protest that everyone demanded that Red Bull use the camo colours for that year. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was so good. So yeah, I love the camo stuff. But yeah, look, when they came out with that red and white, that was just stunning. Reminded me of a Toyota F1 livery scheme, as well as a very old school Dallara Ferrari colour scheme. So it was a bit nostalgic to me. So yeah, great work, Alfa Romeo. Alpine, there's just something about that blue on the Alpine. I think I've just answered my question. I seem to like blue Formula One cars. I thought they've done a stunning job, and because they've got a couple of different colour schemes too. I thought that was cool, and that blue and pink. Yep. Yeah, not sure about blue and pink together, but it works. And BWT as a sponsor seem to be very determined to be in Formula One now across multiple teams. So, so great work to the Alpine team. This is really hard. I could very easily put Aston Martin number 1, just like yourself, Gio. But because I'm a traditionalist, and I've been very angry at Ferrari for a very long time for not sticking to their roots in relation to their true nostalgic colours. Because Ferrari have finally got their colour scheme right with scarlet red with black spoilers, that they earn my P1 again. They spent a long time doing red with white spoilers and all red, and they decided to change the red on the car to a lighter orange color, and this is just sacrilege. That's why they won't win the championship, because they can't get their colors right, and it's all about the color. So the fact that they've got black spoilers, scarlet red, they're going to win the championship this year, I reckon. Not that I'm going for them, I'm going for McLaren, but you can't get past that. All they need to do now is make their pit crew have yellow tops like they did in the early 90s, which is like, what? But it's the truth. So, yeah, my P1 goes to Ferrari.
Right.
So, yeah. How about who's next? Pete, I think that'd be over to you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it is. So, in 5th place for me, it is Alpine, but their livery for the first 2 races. I love the pink. I'm surprised. I hated it when it first came out with Force India years ago, but after being gone for the last year, I did not realise how much I missed the Pink Panthers. I'm glad pink is back in F1. It looks good. In 4th place, McLaren. Now, at first, I wasn't a fan of it. I thought, nah, don't like the colours. But when I saw it in the sun, it just looks so vibrant and exciting. And that's exactly what McLaren is at the moment. They're vibrant and exciting. Between Zach Brown, Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, Andrea Seidel, James Key, they're an exciting team. They're a team to watch in the future, that's for sure.
Yep.
3rd place, Aston Martin. The shade of green this year is a bit more vibrant compared to last year. Last year was a bit too true to British racing green and didn't really film well. Also, as well, I love the fluoro highlights. I think that's a really lovely touch, and it reminds me of the GT3 cars. In 2nd place, this will surprise some of you, is Ferrari.
What a
It's not my first pick. I know. It reminds me of the old 95 Ferraris. No, as Will said, the black wings, the deep, rich, velvety red, and the curves on that car as well, like the shape of it this year. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It gets me all hot underneath the collar. But the one that finishes me off is the Alfa Romeo.
Yes.
It just looks lovely. I love the coloured wheel covers. Also, as well, a little interesting note. The writing on the top engine cover, Alfa Romeo, it's a throwback to the earlier cars in 1920s when they used to put that on their grills in the same font.
Wow.
Oh.
Fantastic.
Saving the best to last now, Ray.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like my list is very similar to yours. I like pretty much everyone just found the Williams blue to be so just choice. And so that's coming in at number 5. Number 4, I have Mercedes. And I know, like, this will at least make me not say I'm too biased or anything like that. I did like the black car last year, but I guess, like, you know, after they made the change and everything like that, seeing the silvers kind of giving me T1000 vibes, so I'm kind of hoping, they come back with the liquid metal and get some vengeance this year. I do think it has a nice design to it. Number 3.
I heard they went back to silver in honor of Lewis Hamilton's 2nd place finish in the championship.
Oh.
Cold-blooded.
Boom.
Messed up my whole list.
that was your 3. No, that was your.
That was my 4. That was my 4. Because I was just like, wait, is this a dig or is he actually giving me history on his 2nd car or something like that? It was like, no, it is a dig at the championships, and now I have to retort. Let me get my notes.
Back to the drawing board.
Number 3, I have Aston Martin. I think they took my breath away when they first dropped. But a part of me just feels like it's just not going to be fast for some reason. And I just don't know why. So I've got it number 3 because just like everyone else, Ferrari just took my breath away. So they're number 2. When I saw that car, my jaw dropped. They got rid of that weird orange arrow that was on top that threw me. I mean the green one. That green, that green contrast threw me off on the last year's car, and
Yeah.
the colors just flow so much better now. It's gorgeous. But just like you, Pete, like I thought Ferrari was my end all be all, and then Alfa Romeo just came out with the Christmas special. I just could not stop looking at that car. It reminds me of candy canes. I don't know why, but I love it. I eat it up every time I look at it.
So no one went or has Haas on their top 5. Very weird.
I was just about to say, I'd like to give Haas an honourable mention after the recent drama. Their new livery looks really nice.
That's
Yeah.
I mean,
I think he's going to be able to afford to go through the season now.
Perfect segue right here.
Oh,
Because we're trying to incorporate a little news into every one of our episodes.
Yeah.
And our main man, Pete, is going to run us through a couple high-level news updates that happened. There was a lot of them, and we're not able to cover most of them, but I'm sure there's a couple of topics that we definitely want to cover. I'm sure Russia being one of them. But Pete, take us through some quick updates for anyone listening, anything that we need to know to catch us up before the new season.
yeah, well, touching on Haas and Russia, Haas have formally split with Ural Kali. They've also dropped Nikita Mazepin. The Mazepins have also been sanctioned personally, so even if they kept Nikita, they wouldn't be able to run through Europe. Also, as well, they have signed Kevin Magnussen back into the team, which I think is a very intelligent move. Moving on, Mario Andretti dropped a bombshell at testing in Barcelona, announcing his son Michael is looking to start a new team in 2024. Apparently, they've got everything in place. They've got an engine supply and Alpine lined up. They're planning F2, F3 teams. They want to bring along Colton Herta, and they've done an agreement with McLaren to do some private testing in last year's car.
Let's hope Michael Andretti's re-entry to Formula One is better than his previous entry into Formula One.
Agreed.
What happened the last time?
Just to mention, to all the new F1 fans, Mario Andretti was a world champion back in the 70s, I think it is. And his son Michael came into F1 in 1993 alongside Ayrton Senna. And unfortunately, Michael Andretti couldn't get used to a Formula One car versus an Indy car, and didn't actually survive the whole season. So, I'm sure he has a bit of a bee in his bonnet to come back and try and reach some success like his father. So, yeah.
Yeah. Max Verstappen signed a new multi-year deal worth $55 million a year.
That's too much.
Same as Hamilton. And actually, Red Bull were giving Mercedes hell last year for signing Hamilton that much. I mean, they go ahead and sign Verstappen. So, don't throw stones in glass houses, Red Bull.
Money talks, man. Money talks.
Absolutely. Otmar Szafner has moved to Alpine. It was a worst-kept secret last year. He was going to be heading to the French outfit. He was part of the Aston Martin Force India team since 2009 and was an integral part of their success and survival as it transitioned to Racing Point and Aston Martin. So I think that's a great pickup by Alpine. Daniel Ricciardo has tested positive to COVID and missed the last 3 days of testing in Bahrain. Yeah, I know. And McLaren have done a deal with Alpine. If Daniel's not available to race in Bahrain, they can use their test and reserve driver, the young Australian Oscar Piastri, who was the F2 champion last year in his rookie season. They can also use Stoffel Van Dorn and Nick De Vries from Mercedes reserve driver pool. But between those three, I would go with Oscar Piastri. He's way too talented. He should not be sitting on the sidelines. And there was several changes done after the events of Abu Dhabi last year. Michael Massey's been moved to a new role in the FIA. They've got Eduardo Freitas from WEC and Niels Wittisch from DTM to act as race directors in a rotating role. They've got a new virtual race control room similar to the video assistant referee in several pro sports. And they've changed how cars unlap themselves. And they've modified radio communications. Team principals cannot contact the race director anymore, and teams can contact the race director via very heavy regulated channels and very formalized wording.
That rule was put in for Horner specifically, right?
And Toto.
and Toto.
Toto's a little friendlier though. Like he's a little friendlier about it, you know.
Ask his Bose headphones.
Yes, I was going to say what headphones. They're no longer headphones, are they?
So Gio, does this make a good time to ask Will to clarify what happened in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, Will, give us a little rundown of Abu Dhabi.
And Pete, thank you
Yeah, that was,
for the news.
Hey, for our first news desk.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
The news read for this whole podcast. Pete, tell us the news. Fantastic. No worries. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Gio. It was one of the most exciting races I think I've ever watched, and I think what was quite fascinating about this season, and that is I've never seen such a divide in who everyone wanted to win in the championship. And look, let's face it, this whole championship has pretty much been about Max and Lewis Hamilton, who's gonna win this championship, and to set the position right to all the newcomers. I've never seen the final race, both drivers on equal points in the championship. I can't think of it. I've seen plenty like 1 point the difference, but I don't think I've ever seen a tie after 22 races all up. The final race of the season tied on points, and so the race underway, and I think it was Max that qualified pole, but Hamilton overtook him very quickly. Mm-hmm. So through the race, it was unfortunately it looked like Mercedes had the much faster car, and no matter what Max tried to do, Hamilton was pulling away into the distance. So I think it would be fair to say that halfway through the race, it was all about, this championship is over. It's all Hamilton's. It's a wrap up. That's it. But teammates and team tactics suddenly kicked in when Hamilton pitted and Max was chasing him down, and Hamilton got himself caught behind a driver by the name of Sergio Perez, which was Max Verstappen's teammate. And Perez did an exceptional job of slowing Hamilton down quite considerably to, I think it was within 3 seconds from what I remember, that Max was able to catch up. And arguably it could actually be the defining point where Max got to a position where the end result, I think the contribution was hugely to Perez. And
wow.
It was quite funny to hear Max on the radio say, "Perez is just a legend." Hamilton. So anyway, pit stops happened, and I think Hamilton managed to pull out a 15-second lead over Verstappen. And for the Hamilton fans out there, happy days. This is all in the bag. For the Verstappen fans, oh no, it's all over. And with, I believe it was 5 laps to go, Nicholas Latifi crashed into the barrier. And very, very inconvenient timing. So by crashing into the barrier, out came the safety car. And the argument was, is the race going to finish under safety car, or is the race going to resume? So to all the new F1 fans, whenever a safety car happens, as a driver, it's an opportunity to race into the pits, change your tyres, and come out in a very, very strong position on the track. So as soon as safety car, it's not just everyone just goes around the track following a safety car until things get cleared up, but this is where strategy can really kick in. So the top drivers had to make a decision of whether to pit and go on fresh tyres or stay out on your existing. So at this point in time, Hamilton's tyres were very, very old. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was 30 plus laps that he'd been on these hard tyres. Yeah. And I almost feel when you're in first position and a safety car comes out, you're in a harder position than P2, because usually speaking is P2 does the opposite of P1 under a safety car. So if P1 goes into the pits, you stay out, or if P1 stays out, you go into the pits. So Max was in the fortunate position that he could make a decision. and Hamilton stayed out because thought it was going to finish under safety car. So Max raced into the pits and jumped on some brand new super soft tyres. And Max managed to come back onto the track in P2. And because it's a safety car, everyone all groups up. So the only difference between Hamilton and Max was there were 3 lap cars between Hamilton and Max on the safety car. So laps were going down as the track was getting cleared, and this is when poor Michael Massey had to make some very, very tough decisions whilst copping abuse from both Red Bull and Mercedes at the same time over team radio, hence Pete why the rule change for this year. They were both trying to give their version of the story. Obviously Mercedes wanting to finish the race under the safety car and follow the rules, and Red Bull saying let's race. And as far as the lapped cars go, the rule is that under safety car, the lapped cars can go around and unlap themselves and go to the back of the grid, etc. Now it got down to, I believe it was 2 laps to go, and still a lot of radio banter and figuring out what's happening. And a last-minute decision was that Michael Massey decided to let the unlapped cars unlap themselves, but the race would resume for the last remaining lap. So that meant that Hamilton was in P1 on very, very old tyres. Verstappen was in P2 with no cars in between them and the safety car. And this is where the radio communications got a little bit colourful, shall we say? And that's where you hear the famous comment from Toto Wolff saying, "No, Mikey, no, this is not right." Because obviously they, in Mercedes' opinion, they didn't follow the rules. That's the lap cars had to unlap themselves and start at the back of the grid, rather than that they were just halfway around the track and completely out the way. So I guess you could say from Massey's perspective, he wanted to let them race, but the unfortunate was Hamilton was on very old tyres, so that unbelievable last lap was a bit of an unfair game. That Matt's brand new tyres was able to make a very big overtaking move and completely storm off into the distance on that last lap. And it was that last lap that decided the championship between them. So nothing like a good F1 controversy, and that's part of the essence of Formula One, that this stuff happens. And either way, it was probably a little bit disappointing to finish the championship on, but it also was an incredible finish to the season too. So
no, I mean, thank you. I mean, it's crazy because more people watched this than the Super Bowl. So this was essentially the most watched sporting event in the past year, and to see all of that unfold between in front of our eyes, I guess for the American audience would be like seeing Mahomes versus Brady, and then at the last second, Goodell gets a call and he puts it down on the 1-yard line for Mahomes, and he's like, next point wins. So everyone was watching, was going nuts. I mean, it's crazy. Just I guess we'll wrap it up. But does it make you feel like this is more par for the course for Formula One, or do we have an exciting season, fresh start, ready to go?
We're getting to the end of it all.
Who's answering this one?
The way last season wrapped up is an indication of hopefully what we're going to get as soon as we start this season. That's the hopes. If some of that drama trickles into this season, then we're in for a ride. I'm super excited. I just can't wait for this first race and for us to talk about it. I hope our listeners can follow us race by race to hear a little bit of the news and a lot of what unfolds throughout the season, because it never starts or never ends the same way it starts, right? Something happens along the way. I'm just ready for it. I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about the predictions race by race. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on everything as soon as we finish watching. But, I'm happy that we have this forum together to talk on this sport that we all love. And I hope people listen and can get on the same paddock as us, But with that said, Thank you guys. This has been fun. Let's gear up. But the goal for the end of the season is that we have full driving gear on for these podcasts. I'm gonna let it slide, but by race 5, if we don't have a full,
you're gonna see me in a car.
I'm gonna be pretty upset. But this has been episode 1 of the Paddock.
Lights out and away we go!